It was an ordinary afternoon in New York, but the world would never be the same. Donald Trump, the construction magnate, former president of the United States, and a controversial figure, was about to announce a decision that would catch everyone by surprise. At the age of 78, after a life marked by victories, bankruptcies, billion-dollar businesses, and incessant criticism, Trump was about to turn his life around, reshaping his image and leaving a legacy that would make history. In a live broadcast from his office at Trump Tower, he revealed a gesture that defied everything we had known about him up until then. To the eyes of all, the magnate was there, in his familiar surroundings, surrounded by luxury and power, but something was about to change. With a serious expression and an unexpected calm for someone so used to expressing himself aggressively, he spoke directly to the world. "I've decided that it's time to change. It's time to do what's right, to help those who need it most, to leave something that will last beyond me and everything I've already accomplished. I, Donald Trump, have decided to donate my fortune to the poorest countries in the world." The world fell silent. The reaction was immediate. News began spreading across the globe. The man who had always been synonymous with wealth and ostentation was announcing that he would give away billions of dollars to humanitarian causes. But what was the reason behind this decision? What had driven him to take such a drastic and unexpected action? What few knew was that, in recent years, Trump had been going through a deep reflection about his life and legacy. During his presidency, he faced major challenges, being the target of intense criticism from both allies and opponents. His name was constantly involved in controversies, disputes, and controversial decisions. But deep down, something was changing within him. What many didn't know was that after leaving the White House, Trump felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness. He had reached the top in so many areas: business, politics, fame. But when he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he realized there was something essential missing: the feeling of having made a genuine difference in people's lives. That emptiness, that feeling of having done less than he could have, troubled him deeply. It was during one of his business trips to Africa that something touched him in a way he never imagined. While visiting one of the poorest countries on the continent, Trump had an encounter with children at an improvised school, with little access to hygiene and basic educational materials. He spoke with some of them and felt, for the first time, the weight of the real struggles that millions of people face every day. These children, with their curious eyes, dreams, and hopes, were proof that the world needed more than just money to thrive. They needed opportunities. But more than that, they needed help now. Upon returning to the United States, Trump decided he had to act. He sought advice from philanthropists, economists, and world leaders on how he could use his fortune to improve the lives of people in extreme situations. He didn't want to just create more empty foundations or make superficial donations. He wanted to transform lives in a real and lasting way. Thus, the Trump Project was born, a global initiative aimed at combating extreme poverty, improving education, and promoting quality healthcare in developing countries. Trump's decision to donate his fortune wasn't simple. It was a journey filled with many challenges and resistance, both internal and external. His children, Ivanka and Donald Jr., were initially skeptical about the magnitude of this decision. "Dad, you've worked your whole life to build this empire. Isn't it time to think about yourself now?" Donald Jr. questioned. But for Trump, the issue ran deeper. He knew he had reached a point in his life where he had already done enough to secure his family's safety and to ensure his name would be remembered in the pages of history. But he wanted something more. He wanted to be remembered as someone who used his power and influence to change the fate of many. With that, Trump began to publicize his donations strategically. He wanted to ensure the money was invested properly, so he formed partnerships with global humanitarian organizations and created a network of private foundations to ensure the resources were used wisely. The donation was made in stages, in a way that ensured each dollar was allocated effectively. The initial donation of $10 billion was just the beginning, with Trump committing to donate more over the years, eventually reaching the staggering sum of $100 billion. The impact was immediate. Countries that had previously struggled with food crises and a lack of infrastructure began experiencing a renaissance. Schools were built, emergency hospitals were set up, and professional training programs began to flourish. In places like sub-Saharan Africa, Some areas that had been nearly abandoned now thrived, with new healthcare centers, roads, and sustainable agriculture. More importantly, a new generation of local leaders and entrepreneurs emerged, motivated by the chance to change the reality of their communities. In one of the poorest countries in Asia, for example, the Trump Project helped build a tropical disease treatment center that saved thousands of lives. In areas that had previously been affected by hunger, the food distribution and sustainable farming seed programs brought immediate relief. What had seemed impossible now became a reality for millions of people. Months later, Trump's donation became a historic milestone. International organizations like the UN and the Red Cross praised the magnitude of his gesture. But the most visible impact was on the lives of people. In places like sub-Saharan Africa, parts of Asia, and Latin America, the transformations were evident. Communities that had once been on the margins of civilization began to flourish. At an annual philanthropy event in Geneva, Donald Trump was honored for his contribution to the humanitarian cause. There, in his acceptance speech, he spoke about his personal journey, the emptiness he had felt, and how the lives he was now touching gave him a deeper purpose. When you look at the world and see so much suffering, it can feel like there's not much to be done. But when you decide to give something more, everything changes. No matter how big or small the gesture is, what matters is doing it. And that's what I hope everyone does, in whatever way they can. At the end of the event, an African child took the stage to present Trump with a symbolic tribute, a clay sculpture representing the unity of people. With tears in his eyes, Trump received it, aware that his life had finally found the purpose he had been searching for. He would not only be remembered as a businessman or a president, he would be remembered as someone who made a genuine difference in the world. However, Donald Trump's story didn't end there. After his historic donation, an unexpected event shook the world. A report revealed that the magnate, in his final act of generosity, had left all his personal assets, properties, and businesses for future generations, with the condition that they be used exclusively for humanitarian causes. Trump's final gesture, his last surprise, was the creation of a global foundation with a mission to eradicate poverty and create a better future for millions of people. He proved that, regardless of the past, anyone can choose to change and leave a lasting impact on the world. In his last public letter, Trump wrote, "True wealth is not in what we accumulate, but in what we leave behind. May my actions inspire others to do the same, to look at others with more compassion, and to use what we have to improve the lives of those in need. The world needs more than words. The world needs action." Donald Trump, the man who was once synonymous with wealth and power, will now be remembered as a symbol of transformation and generosity. His historic donation not only helped millions, but also inspired people around the world to rethink what it means to be successful and how our actions can leave a legacy that transcends selfishness. He taught the world that true greatness doesn't just come from building an empire, but from transforming lives and leaving a positive impact on the world. He showed that, regardless of our history or past mistakes, there is always time to do good and create a better future. If you were moved by this story, subscribe to our channel to watch other emotional videos about the lives of figures who have made an impact on the world. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment below so that more people can feel the strength and humanity of these stories. Together, we can spread these messages of hope and transformation across the world.